Hello, and welcome to another episode of Improperly Packaged, a show where we unbox topics related to movies, TV, games, whatever. I am Jordan. With me is Luke. How are you doing, Luke?
I'm doing well. Welcome, Jordan. Welcome, one and all.
One and all. Yeah. Having a good week so far? Going pretty good?
Yeah, having a good week. Little post birthday week, if you will. I don't know
Still
what you
recovering
would be
from
doing,
the slide?
but yeah, definitely sore neck. I think I speak for all of us guys who were sliding on that thing when I say sore neck. You know what I mean? If you're out there, you were sliding with us.
So we'll talk to you about the dangers and excitement and fun of the 60-foot inflatable slide.
Yeah.
So when your wife was telling me about this, I had no idea what she was talking about, but I didn't realize.
What did you imagine she was talking about?
No, like it's just something that I forgot that I've been a part of. Like basically, it's the like there's the bouncy house, right? But
it's in the family of bounce houses.
Yeah, bouncy house, and then there's the inflatable water slide, which is this big thing you climb up on. It's like water cascading down, and you travel down a giant inflatable slide.
Like a miniature version of like a water park slide.
Yeah, you rent them, and
definitely.
And you go bananas on them, and
yep.
A lot of fun.
Well, not if you're you and I.
Yeah, we don't like bananas, but
you go like blueberries or something on it.
Yeah, more agreeable fruit maybe. But
that's kind of an inside joke.
Well, for your birthday celebration, we were having fun on this slide. And how long do you think we were doing it for?
Far too long. At least like 2 hours.
I feel like that's the case. It's like there were children at your party, but I feel like
we them out.
Yeah, I mean,
okay, kid, have fun somewhere else.
It does feel that way that we monopolized the slide.
Hey, it's my birthday, okay? Those kids were fully invited to ride that slide, but they had to leave room for me.
Joe's kid took part, and she was able to hang with the big boys. But
she several times was like, "You take me down the slide." I was like,
"Yeah,
okay."
And I was like, "Child, I'm uncomfortable with this. I have a fear of hurting children." So
definitely, it was like, make sure and hold her up the whole time down.
Yeah,
not let her head get hit or any of that.
You don't want to be. What did you do?
Oh man, there's nothing worse.
Oh my god,
there is nothing worse.
Yeah, but yeah, we have the scars from that wonderful occasion. Yeah,
it's crazy. You would think it wouldn't be like that bad, but it was probably partially because we were just acting like idiots, and
we broke a lot of rules.
I don't know. It just somehow, like, I cut my foot. Somehow, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's a big inflatable balloon. You wouldn't think you'd cut your foot, but I assume it happened on the ground. I don't know. It felt like it happened on the slide.
There's just a lot of Velcro exposed on that thing.
But it was like, Jordan, it was like I hit like a razor blade. It was like sliced through. Like, what's the front part of your foot? The ball? I think that's called the ball of your foot.
Yes.
Like the front part right behind your toes.
Yeah.
So hopefully the ball of your foot got sliced. My foot. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I had a good time either way.
We had a good time. So yeah.
Yeah. Carrie was bleeding. It was great.
Yeah. It was so good. Like, forget the slide. It was just so good to see everybody.
Absolutely. That's exactly right.
Yeah. It was really good.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Great time.
Glad you guys and you and your wife were able to come.
Yeah.
Anybody else who came and is listening. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate you celebrating my birthday.
Woo! So Luke, what have you been watching / playing / listening to this week?
So hopefully I start becoming more original, but in the meantime, I'm going to stick to my release radar exploration. And there's a bunch of good songs this week on here. The Lone Bellow is one I would suggest to people. Just look at their stuff. But one particular song is by this guy, Rag and Bone Man. Ridiculous
Rag
name.
and Bone Man.
Ridiculous name. But he does a song called Anywhere Away From Here, featuring Pink.
I'm sorry,
And
Bethany.
it's
You're
really
being
good.
so creepy right now. Did you see her?
No.
Hi, Bethany. How you doing? She was
You
just
scared me saying that.
she was doing this little thing. I was like, you can come in.
The way you said that, I was like, oh my gosh. So yeah, Anywhere Away From Here, really good. It's got this like folksy feel, and I think it's one you would like.
What's the title? What's the artist name? Sorry, Bethany
Rag
was
and Bone Man.
Bethany was
Rag and Bone Man.
Rag and Bone Man.
Rag and
Oh, he popped up
Bone
straight
Man.
away.
Oh, he's really big. His top song is like 600 million streams. So
Anywhere Away From Here.
he looks like a Post Malone fellow, but
Tats on the
music
face.
is not really that way. Yeah, I don't know. I like Pink's voice. There's just something about her voice that just,
Yeah.
I don't know,
She's a
takes
great
me
voice.
back to like just when I was younger, and I feel like I kind of grew up. Well, we grew up in the time when Pink like kind of exploded onto the scene, and so she's always a good like featured voice, or not featured, but like complimentary voice to another artist. You know, I like her stuff as well, but she just, I don't know, she's good compliment to other people's voices. So
Yeah, definitely. She's really
Yep.
good. I'm trying
she has
to
a
like
like down home kind of feel to the way she sings.
for some reason I can't I'm trying to like I'm looking up Pink, right? You know, Pink. It's Pink. Everyone knows Pink.
Yep.
But for some reason I can't place like what her biggest song was, you know?
You mean like back in the day?
Yeah, like back in the day. Like what was her biggest song?
Hmm.
The ones that like she came on the scene with. I don't even
Yeah.
know. That's weird. Like I know a lot of these songs, but I don't know
Yeah, I
which
know like
one.
a lot of stuff now, but Stupid Girls, wasn't that a big one? Who Knew? That was in 2006.
Oh, Most Men? Is that Most Girls?
Yeah,
Most Girls.
Who Knew was
Want
definitely a big
man
one.
with the baby. All right, anyways.
Oh, you're talking about way early. So
Yeah.
like Misunderstood.
I think, man, yeah, that rendition of Most Girls was so accurate. It'll probably get this video on YouTube copyright struck, I'm sure.
Doesn't take much for that to happen.
I guess not. If I inaccurately hum a few bars of Most Girls, will that do the trick?
Honestly, you should be able to play music on your thing because it is part of fair use. So, I
We're
mean, it
talking
technically
about it.
is protected. Yeah, I mean, we can't just play the whole song, but if we were to play a clip and, you know, had us commenting on it, that's perfectly fair use. But YouTube has a pretty strict policy on that. I think it's unfortunate.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It used to be a much freer place in that regard, and I feel like, yeah. Luke, some of this is strange. All right, so
Hit me with it.
all right, it's just kind of a realization I had. I work on the phones a lot at my job, and something I have to, you know, call a lot of businesses sometimes. And what I realize is, you know, people complain a lot about hold music.
Yeah.
You know what? Sometimes
Elevator music.
Yeah, sometimes the hold music really just gets you in the right spot. And I'm just like,
Or
you
it's
know,
also so loud. Like, I think it's Best Buy.
Best
where
Buy.
It's so loud, it's like distorted. It's like, I would rather you just not play anything. This
It's
hurts my
so
ear.
bad.
It's just like screaming at me. I'm like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, I've
You're obnoxious.
I've experienced that with Best Buy. Best Buy is not among them, but a lot of these. All right, so doctors' offices, nursing homes.
Yeah.
Man, sometimes I'm like, all right, you know, just I'm like,
nobody
oh,
ever answers.
that's real nice. That's real nice. But so that get me listening to some classical music because, you know, I was just like, you know what, I want something nice, something where I could actually, you know, because a lot of times when I'm talking on the phone, I can't listen to music. Like, that sounds weird. I can't listen to like non-instrumental music, and I can't.
You mean real music? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, classical music. So that led me to listen to some classical music. I've been listening to just the classical essentials on Spotify. I've been listening to that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Most recently, sometimes I can't listen to like video game soundtracks or soundtracks in general because like some stuff is appropriate while I'm talking. I don't hone in on it that much, but sometimes it's very much like the action music, and I'm just like, this is way too distracting. So I've been listening to a lot of classical music, and it's nice. It's a nice thing to do. It's one of those things where I'm not that person. I'm not the kind of person who listens to classical music and can really break it down and tell you what's good about it and why it's good and all that stuff. I'm not that. I'm not classically trained or anything like that. So, but
you are an artist for people who don't know that.
Yeah, I technically
definitely a
musician, but that being said,
no, not technically. You are definitely a musician. You were really good.
I appreciate that, Luke. But yeah, classical music is not. I wouldn't. Is when people ask what I listen to, I wouldn't say classical music. But every now and then, it has its place, and I feel like it's really finding a place at my place of work when I'm like really just in the groove, calling, talking to people. I'm not a telemarketer, for anyone who's wondering that. But when doing that, classical music really.
Your scheduler,
yeah, I schedule things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's what I've been listening to. But Lou, what have you been watching / playing?
Speaking to what you were saying, that's when I always go to jazz. Jazz is like, I like a lot of music, but man, I'll hit the jazz for a while, and that's just me. I know. I feel like a lot of people don't like jazz, but I really enjoy jazz. If I personally, I don't think I'm a great musician, so I've never really pursued that. I enjoy making music, but it's just not something that comes naturally to me. And but if I could live an alternate life, I would be like a contract jazz musician. I would play like on cruise ships or like in bars. Like that would be just awesome. There's something about like hitting the wrong notes and like just jumping around the freaking I don't even know the right words, but it's just so much fun to me. Like, anyways.
Did I ever talk to you about that? Like, this is kind of off the beaten path a little bit, but whatever. Who cares? When going on a cruise like ship, when you see the entertainment there, like my mind spins and wonders. I'm just reeling at the thought of what it would be like to be one of those artists, whether you're doing the Broadway stuff on the ship or whether you're one of those people at the bar who just go every night and play piano. Yeah. It's like,
there was a guy who had his own like piano bar on the last cruise we went to, and he was just like the guy that's got the cup on top and you stuff the dollar bills in there and you ask for him to play different things and you can sing along with him, and he just gets you riled up, that kind of guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, same kind of thing. It's like, it's such a unique lifestyle.
We had an episode recently about reality TV, and I would watch if like Netflix came out with like a reality TV show or even a documentary or something like that, if you don't want to make a full show of just the life of these people who are like, they're artists or whatever. They're not just like, they're not saying just a chef. I mean, that's a big thing too, but like specifically artists, I'm really interested of what their life is like. Like I came to that when we were at like this, the cruise line had like this garden area where like a violinist and a pianist came out. I think they were from Germany or something like that, and they just played every night. And I just like was like, what is there? And they're like younger. They're not like, had all the career and all that stuff squeezed out of them. They're in their prime, and I'm just like, I was reeling like, what is their life like? I want a documentary. Give me that documentary. If anyone's listening who can make it happen for me, I want that. I'll even settle for like fiction that's based on reality if you want to make like a TV show or a movie about it, because that's just something about that. I'm like, it's fascinating to me. Sorry.
We need more original TV shows and movies. Too much stuff's recycled, so why not?
Why not, man?
Things have been made about a lot dumber subjects than that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Sorry, I cut you off a little bit.
I've been watching American Idol. We're trying to catch up. They're still going strong. They're getting into like the live part where America's voting now, and we're a little bit ahead or a little bit behind. So catching up with that, and yeah, just having fun with that. It's good week to week, entertainment when the baby finally goes to sleep.
Do you vote, by
I
the way? Like, American
no,
Idol vote?
never have.
Okay.
I think I did
I was
like
wondering.
Kelly Clarkson, but
At the beginning.
I think that may have been the only time I've ever voted.
I was just curious.
No, I think it's been a while since we've been live on it, so that's part of it. And I don't know. I guess I'm just lazy.
You're
or
not doing your
something.
American duty. I understand.
Just don't. Yeah, exactly. I'm a terrible person. Watch another episode of Falcon Winter Soldier. So
It's
I'm on
real good,
episode
isn't it?
4 now. Is the new one 5?
The new one's 5. You're caught up, so that was a really good episode.
The next one I have to watch is 4. So I've watched 3.
Okay, watch
so,
3. Okay, 4 is really
I'm
good.
on 4 now, and so
I'm excited for you to watch 4.
need to watch it. Yeah, so far it's very much a mixed bag for me. I enjoy things about it. It drags in some parts. It's I would say so far compared to Scarlet Witch, whatever that WandaVision show was. I forgot.
Wow, it has not
too
been
much
that
has happened. But compared to that, I would say this show it's been a little slow for me so far. But
I hear you.
we'll see. It's too early to judge, and I'm judging. So there you go.
Yeah,
we watched John Wick 3 Parabellum.
we did.
The evening before we had the party.
Part of your birthday celebration.
That was a movie that when I first saw it, I just was like, this just has everything I want in an action, shooty, whatever you want to call those kind of movies. It used to be a genre that was just ruled by Arnold Schwarzenegger, and now, of course, there's many stars. The Rock is in a lot of them. And Keanu Reeves has long been a great action hero, and I feel like he kind of went on hiatus there for a significant amount of time. And around John Wick's time was, the first movie was kind of when he started to come back and get more jobs in that category. I don't know if he just took off from acting in general for a while. It just didn't feel like I saw him quite a while. What was that movie? You enjoyed the TV show? I feel like that was kind of there was a period where he made that. What was the name of that movie?
It was a TV show based on it? Or was it based off a TV show? Constantine.
Like demons. Yeah, Constantine. It was like that. And then I felt like after that, it was a what? I'd have to go back on IMDb. I'm just off the top of my head. I remember that being like one of the last few things. And then there was a while there where I didn't see him. And then kind of came roaring back on the scene. That's all I mean.
That's very true.
What I was talking about. So yeah, anyways, it's fun to see Keanu Reeves back. I mean, obviously, probably the biggest thing happening in Keanu Reeves' world is The Matrix is filming, and Keanu Reeves fans like you and I are holding their breath to see how that turns out. But he's a fun guy to watch. He had a moment there where he was like all over the internet, but
oh yeah. He became a meme.
Yeah, it's kind of a weird thing. He's kind of been a constant for a long time now. He's kind of been the same person. He seems like he tries to do the right thing. I saw something about like how careful he is to like not inappropriately touch women when they come to like take pictures of him, and
the hover arm.
I have respect for that. I think some of it's unnecessary that guys have to tiptoe around that much, but I understand. Better to err on that side than go the other way, obviously. But yeah, he's a great guy, and John Wick 3 is just a great movie. It's man, I might go so far as to say it's my favorite action movie, but I don't know. There's so many of them. I watched The Matrix not that long ago. We talked about it. That movie's just incredible. It's just on the action, like in the action genre, it's just amazing. And yeah, there's so many good ones. That one's a great one. So if you haven't watched that one, if you haven't watched that in general, like you just have to watch that movie. If you like action movies, even a little bit, you have to watch that movie.
It's interesting how like Keanu, like he has, you talked about Arnie before, and it's like but Keanu's like kind of carved himself out as being like an action star. I would argue just as big as Schwarzenegger and Stallone and stuff like that, but he's definitely has a different kind of like persona to him. Like, you know, it's like
Definitely.
with Matrix mixed with Speed, mixed with, you know, John Wick. I'm like, those are giant heavy hitters, and like you think of him as like this action guy, and it's like, yeah, he has a different build to him, and he doesn't have as much of like the machismo that say a Schwarzenegger would have, but yeah, he's an action star at this point.
Yeah, and he's an excellent actor as well. So
Yeah.
he's got a lot going for him. Yeah, the last thing is I finally downloaded and picked up Star Wars Squadrons. It came to Game Pass,
Mm-hmm.
and so I played it for a little while. I was kind of strapped for time when I picked it up, so I only got to play it for, I don't know, maybe a half hour, 45 minutes kind of thing. And it's interesting. It seems like a lot of fun. It seems like a game that I will probably play some more of. It Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. It's You can tell it's a smaller game, but it feels good. I've never been big into like fly shooty,
Fly
like
shooty shooty.
dogfight kind of games. But this one's good. It feels good. I'm so used to doing on foot first person shooters that it feels different. Obviously, when you are having to, I realized something when I was playing this game, that what it is that's so different, and why like a lot of times the thumbsticks are inverted,
Mm-hmm.
as much as I hate that, is just the fact that when you look up, like obviously you can keep looking up, which is so different than first
Yeah.
person shooters, but also you like have to like, there's this free flowing movement that's so different than when you're grounded to the ground. You can, like, both joysticks in that scenario are, the left one's for looking completely, you look over your screen when you're playing first person shooter,
Yeah.
and the right one's for like moving your body, so you can move left and right while turning left or right to look. Whereas you can't do that as much when you're flying a plane, because the way you look is the way you're moving. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Whereas like you can't just have one joystick be the way you're moving,
Mm-hmm.
because the way you look is the way you're moving. So it's kind of a weird thing,
It is.
but
It's different, and
it's what makes
unique.
it harder to
Yeah.
shoot when you're flying something versus when you are grounded onto the ground and you're walking around and you're able to dodge. And I just realized I'm able to move so much better in first person, and I was kind of getting frustrated at, like, I know what I'm trying to do, I understand the controls, but I'm still not able to do it, and it just
Mm.
made me feel kind of stupid. But it's a cool game. It's a neat game. I'm so glad to see just, a solid game in the Star Wars universe. There's
Mm-hmm.
definitely not enough of those.
Yeah, definitely. And it's interesting how, like, you know, it's been a long time since they've done. This is called Squadrons. This is not Rogue Squadron 3. I think it is like a very big distinction there. Which it's funny to see this come after so long of the Rogue Squadron series. The last one was on GameCube, and now there's this. And the funny thing is, now there's going to be a movie called Rogue Squadron, and it's like, it's very strange,
Yeah.
but it
Hmm.
very cool that they made this. And also the fact that, like, it's a smaller game, it's a smaller price. I like the mid-range price there. If you weren't getting on Game Pass, I think it's $40. That's so cool.
Hmm.
Good to see.
And get on Game Pass if you're not on
Yeah,
Game
of course.
Pass.
If you're not on Game Pass, yeah, get that. Anything else, man?
No.
I thought I'd mention this really quick. I didn't include it on my list, but you mentioned Game Pass. I thought I'd mention it. I played a couple hours of Outriders. That's the Square Enix looter shooter kind of
Hmm.
deal. It's on
Console's full, or I would have been downloading it earlier. I've
yeah,
got
oh
too much
no.
stuff on there.
I've checked it out. All right, so I'm not at a point where I could feel like I could really talk about it, but it's cool. I mean, like, I need to redesign my character, because, like, I feel like my character design looks really weird. Like, you can edit your character, and when you're editing your character in the character creation screen, it looks so detailed. But then when the game starts and you play it, you're like, oh, this it looks like a different model. It's strange, but so far, yeah, the premise of the game is your Earth is kaput, and you're part of the last bit of the civilization going to this new planet that can host humanity. Pretty stock as far as plot goes, and something
Mm-hmm.
goes awry, and you become this last survivor of this kind of extinct warrior uh, race from Earth. And yeah, the planet's weird. There's full of creatures and magic, and you end up getting some abilities that you can choose from. And the gameplay's pretty good. It reminds me of like a more free-flowing Gears of War, where Gears of War feels, in my opinion, a little slower of a shooter, and it's a little clunkier. I mean, purposefully so, but this one's a lot snappier, I think, and gives you a lot more freedom. I mean, I'm not a Gears expert, but from what I've played of Gears, that's how I kind of feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty cool. It reminds me of almost like Gears of War meets Destiny, maybe. That's how I felt when you pick your class and like what your class role is, and you have like loadouts as far as your abilities that go with your class. But it feels good to play. I mean, that's the main thing, right? The gameplay feels cool. I
Yeah,
played
that's definitely the main thing.
definitely, and I played
Too many
only
games get that wrong.
absolutely where it's like this looks great, and this
Yeah.
looks fine. This looks okay. I mean, it's not an amazing looking game. It looks fine,
Mm-hmm.
and but it plays really well. The thing that stopped me is I was actually going to ask you. I think we should play this one together. I need some help because this is very much, there's a point where it's like you get in the game and it's like, okay, now you're at your base of operations. This is where the multiplayer aspect comes into it more. You can play it by yourself, but from what I've heard, it's not recommended. So definitely want to keep playing this one.
It looks pretty good on the screenshots, but
Yeah, it looks good. It's not a bad
I
looking
haven't
game.
played. Oh, that's Bulletstorm.
Ah!
I was on their website, like looking at. I was trying to figure out what else they'd
Mhm.
done. So they did Bulletstorm. They did Gears of War Judgment. This is People Can Fly. For those people who don't know,
Yeah.
that's the developer of Outriders. Painkiller. They did Gears of War 3, Gears of War, Gears of War 2.
Oh, that explains it.
I guess they helped. Develop Fortnite.
Well,
Unreal Tournament, Infinity Blade. That was a really good mobile game.
yeah, this is a very experienced developer, and it's published by Square Enix. This is a very interesting property for them to develop. They don't really do things like this very often. So, yeah, I recommend checking it out. Especially, again, I'd like to play with someone if you have a squad
Yeah,
that
we
you can
should
play
do that.
with. I think I like looking at them. Like I can imagine this being a lot of fun playing this with a fire team or whatever. So I've been quietly playing Breath of the Wild over again. I think I mentioned it a little bit, but
Quietly.
yeah, meaning I haven't really talked about it that much. But I've put, so several years ago we got a Switch, and about when it came out 4 years ago, and about a year into owning it, our Switch got stolen. It sucks. Our house got broken into, and they stole very little, but they did steal our Switch. So yeah, with that that was right before the advent of cloud saves. I know, crazy, right? It was right before the advent of cloud saves on the Nintendo Switch. And so all my Breath of the Wild,
It's the worst.
and all of my Breath of the Wild save data was just gone. And so I started from scratch. There was a lot of stuff that like I could have continued to do. There was a lot of DLC that I never played. And so I played the entire game all over again, got all the shrines, and leveled up a lot of my armors all the way. And you know what? I'm glad. I'm glad I got to play it again. 4 years have gone by since the game came out. And what spawned it was just seeing, when the 4-year anniversary of the Switch and Breath of the Wild happened, there was a lot of love online for the game, and just seeing a lot of people post about it made me nostalgic and being like, yeah, man, wow, I missed that game. And playing it was just so much fun. And it's just such a satisfying game to play. And yeah, it's still best Zelda games, and I think one of the best games ever made. Just it does something so unique. It's like it's strange how it's almost like a chill game to play, but sometimes very stressful to play too, and very challenging at times. It's very much a game you can it's perfect for the Switch, where how you just pick it up, you can do a few things here and there, you can accomplish your little goals, whatever you want to do, and then you can put it down and pick it up later. But like I don't know, I just had a great time, and it's still like managed, even though like the PS5 is out, next gen is here, and we've gotten so many giant open world games since Breath of the Wild. It's playing it again, it's still managed to like kind of give me this sense of wonder, and like like looking out into the distance and being like, wow, I want to go over there. And even like, though I've played the game before, like seeing a dragon is such a cool thing where like there's this, I've never experienced it in a game where it's like at a certain time of day in a certain region, this giant dragon will come from the heavens and it won't fight you. This isn't something that you fight. You can like harvest parts of it to like make certain things, like shoot an arrow and like it'll give you something and it'll float and it'll glow. Really cool. But it's just something that's so majestic. And it's just like, I don't know. It's awesome. And I played the bit of DLC that I never played with the Champions Ballad. It's just some more story, a few more shrines, a few more challenges. Really cool. Just awesome. Get to replay the game and play this like 8-hour chunk of it that I've never experienced before. Awesome. I'm excited and almost scared for Breath of the Wild 2 because I have no idea what they can do. I have no idea where they can go from here to make a sequel to this game. I mean, what are they going to do? Make it on the same map? Or are they going to go to a different location?
Could they just go bigger with it? Could they just keep it very similar and just improve on it? Like just expand?
They certainly could.
You think that would work?
Maybe. It's going to be weird for people who have because there's like pro Breath of the Wild players who have put 1,000 hours, thousands of hours into the game and know that map, every nook and cranny of it somehow, because it's so large, such a large map. But somehow a lot of these people just know it all around. And it would be weird to like that map is there, but there's just more. I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, do a new map, but like try to keep it samey, very samey. Just like new dungeons, I don't know.
In my opinion, that would be probably the best case scenario if it was a new map and it was just like, because that's what they did with so when they made Ocarina of Time, they fast tracked a sequel, which was Majora's Mask. They used the same engine and they sent Link to another land, the land of Termina. They let him leave Hyrule, and so you got a new map in the same engine, which they're going to use the same engine for Breath of the Wild too. They just are. And so I'd be completely fine if you're like at a new location that isn't just Hyrule. You have to travel somewhere with Zelda. That would be cool. I'd be 100% down for that. I don't know, just you're exploring this new land. That sounds exciting to me. So I hope it's that. I would rather not be like, oh, it's the same map and we put some stuff in it that's different and there's a new region that popped up over here. That sounds like DLC, which I feel like you could just add that on to Breath of the Wild. But either way, I have no idea what they're going to do.
Hopefully the new one will be even more up-resed. So
yeah, hopefully
that would be a nice thing.
Especially with rumors
higher
of this
frame rate.
Yeah, especially with rumors of the Switch Pro. That'd be awesome.
I was listening to another podcast and they were saying, it is kind of an interesting idea, them talking about a Switch Pro when, like, how far out is whatever the next thing Nintendo does? Because it can't be too far out. We're like, I think, 4 years into the Switch now?
It's a long time.
So it can't be, you wouldn't think it'd be more than like maybe 7.
Yeah. What I would hope, honestly, we haven't really talked much about the Switch Pro, but what I would want is it to be just the next gen for them and have it fully backwards compatible and keep the same thing going. Yeah. Keep this Switch portable thing going. Keep it going. Have all those games backwards compatible, but keep the same like thing where it's like the dock, the portable. That's just great. Just if they ever dropped that, I don't.
It needs to be the Switch Beast. It needs to be the Beastly Switch.
Yeah, make it the Beast Switch.
The like MacBook Pro version that like has like at least full 1080p at all times.
At all times.
It definitely needs to be like 60 frames.
Mm-hmm.
If they could just get a rock solid 60, honestly, from what I've played, like 120 is so nice, but the 60 frames is beautiful.
Beautiful.
That's like the place where games are just golden. Like you're not missing much past 60. It's a little more smoother.
Yeah.
But below 60, it's like, okay. 30 it's choppy. Anyways, I don't play the Switch, but I want that for Switch people.
Yeah, and
I want to play the Switch, but there's just not a lot of other things on it that I'm into. So I'm kind of like stuck. Like I've always wanted to play Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I know. If you're
And I
not
miss out on that.
if you're not a Mario, not a Mario, but if you're not like a specific Nintendo fan, it's like I've gotten to a place where I'm like, I don't really like playing third party games that much anymore, depending on what they are. Like at least the big third party games. I don't really like playing them on the Switch, but gosh darn, yeah, the Nintendo stuff just freaking gets me and I love it. And if you're not into that, it's just we can talk about some stuff.
That's where
forward.
I am.
Yeah. But anyways, I've been looking at some of this stuff. The next two things I have to talk about are really nostalgic, really 90s kid stuff. So you ready for it? All right. First off,
Tamagotchi.
Yeah, Tamagotchi. That's what I've been playing. No, I meant to talk about this last week, but I forgot. So Paramount Plus is a service that I forget that I'm subscribed to, but I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta forget to unsubscribe to it because I was subscribed to it.
CBS All Access.
Yeah, to watch The Stand, and I'm just forgetting to unsubscribe. But they have all of the 90s Nickelodeon stuff. And holy crap, I've watched some of it, like some of the stuff I went back to. Some of it's unwatchable. Like a lot of the stuff that like I love when I was a kid, some of them like I can't stand to watch this. Like Salute Your Shorts, unwatchable. Fun that it's on there, it's unwatchable. But the same thing goes for All That. Sad to say, some of the stuff I'll chuckle a little bit, but some of it's kind of painful. But one that I watched, which was just great. It's just one of the most 90s things you'll ever see. It's a game show called Nick Arcade. Have you ever seen this show?
No.
So I watched this show and it sparked my imagination, and I was like, how is this made? And so what the show is, it's a game show where basically got a bunch of nerdy kids, nerdy 90s kids coming on, and you got a game show host, and they do a round where it's like you are like, okay, you have this video game Mike character that's on screen, and you get to decide where to move him to try to get to the goal, and each block will represent some sort of challenge, whether it be an arcade challenge where you play like a really short, like a minute of Battletoads. That's actually really disappointing. Or you do like a pop quiz thing and you get to the end. And so one team wins that thing where you try to get this video game character to a goal by just saying, move him up, and they'll move him, and it'll be like video challenge or something like that. And then at the end of it, this is the part that most people who've seen the show remember of the game. They go into the video zone. And so the winning team goes into the video zone. They take you through this. I'm
looking at the screenshots on IMDb.
They take you through this door with smoke billowing out, very dramatic. And you go into, when you're a kid, this is what you think, you go into the video game world. And so you'll do basically these platforming challenges, like avoid the wizard and get to the key and bring it back. Really simple stuff like that. But you're there. Basically, how they did it was like breakthrough technology at the time. I looked it up. There's this guy, I forgot his name, but I'd recommend him on YouTube. Just look up Nick Arcade, you'll probably find it. He does this really nice breakdown and kind of like retrospective on how they did this show and how they wanted this whole show to be this, but they wanted to be more game showy, so they kind of dialed it back, and you can actually kind of tell because it's a little less organized. But this is so cool. They had it to where they're in front of a green screen. They see themselves on a video in front of them, but they're interacting with the world. So there's hit detection sort of. So when they hit an enemy, their life bar will go down. When they hit the goal or whatever, the key or whatever it is, the coin, it'll you're got it. It's something really primitive for today's standards, but at the time I couldn't believe it. I was like, this is so cool. I want to be on this show primarily just to do this. So neat, so retro, and it's so funny how awkward these kids are. Oh my god, it's so hilarious when the host is trying to talk to the kids at the beginning. Hey man, how's it going? So I heard you like writing, huh? He's like, what kind of stuff do you like to write? Sci-fi.
Is it Wrestling with Gaming, the guy that you're talking about on YouTube?
Maybe.
Because he has a big video, the 90s show that put kids inside video games, retro gaming history.
I think that is it. I recommend it. It's really cool. Check that guy's video out.
He's got shots of the game. That's really cool.
It's so neat.
So unique.
Yeah, and there's he talks about how there's this they're trying to get it back or whatever, and some wrestler wants to host it. It's like his dream to like be the next host of
Like right now?
Nick
You're
Arcade.
talking
Yeah,
about that?
yeah, they
Wow.
want to. There's like a Kickstarter to try to like get it done. But anyways, very cool, very retro. If you want to check it out, it's on Paramount Plus, along with all those other other things like Legend of the Hidden Temple and Guts. You know, remember Guts? Anyways,
Oh yeah.
another retro thing I checked out. It's on Netflix. It's an original Netflix documentary called The Last Blockbuster. Have you seen that pop up on your feed yet?
I think so.
Yeah, The Last Blockbuster is exactly what it sounds like. It's mainly it talks about the rise of Blockbuster and the fall of Blockbuster.
Oh
and,
yeah.
and how in Bend, Oregon, there is the last remaining Blockbuster that's still there, and it's just one.
Is that the one that's an Airbnb?
No, I don't think it's an Airbnb.
There's one that's an Airbnb that you can stay in a Blockbuster.
I think they like retrofit it into an Airbnb. It's okay, so this documentary, it's really kind of hard to judge the documentary because you're really just judging it usually about how interesting the subject matter is. But
right.
sometimes a documentary will be like, something's wrong. And, you know, because we're so used to critiquing movies, it's a different thing to critique a documentary.
Yeah.
But this one's okay. You know, I felt something was wrong at a certain point where at the beginning, it's very interesting. I feel like they present most of the information you want to see at the beginning of it. They'll talk about like how expensive, like owning a VHS tape was at the beginning. How it was like $70 to own a VHS, and like how rental places brought it to the map, and then Blockbuster brought rental stores into the mainstream and made it even better. Very interesting stuff. And then talking about how like what went wrong towards the end, some of the business decisions that made them sink, and talking about the last Blockbuster. But they spent a lot of time just with these interviews of these random like C-list celebrities just kind of like reminiscing, and they'll like just be really repetitive and just go on and on about like, oh yeah, I remember Blockbuster. I can't believe there's only one store left. They're still there. You know, like stuff like that. Just a lot of that. We're like, I get it. Jeez. And so it's about an hour and 15 minutes. It probably should be like 40, 45, honestly.
That Blockbuster, there's like shots of it in the IMDb.
Yeah.
It looks exactly like ours looked.
Yeah.
Like it takes me back so much seeing the split countertops. Oh, for those listeners who don't remember, the doors went in the middle of the store, like directly in the center. And then on the right was the return counter.
Yep.
Where you would return your VHSs. And then the employees could walk through the exit, like perpendicular to the door, to the other counter, which was the checkout.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And like the systems were like systems you could rent. The video games were on that left side, like right in front of the checkout counter. Oh my gosh. So many memories.
That's a huge knock against this documentary, by the way. They focus solely on movies. They don't bring up video games at all, which is sacrilege in my mind. That was such a big part of Blockbuster and a big part of video game history.
At least for you and me, it sure was.
I think it is for gaming, period. The fact like gaming wasn't what it was now. Like I feel like you can very much like try games and look at reviews and look at playthroughs and really understand what a game was. All you had back in the day were magazines, and you could rent the video game. You wouldn't just go to the store and judge whether or not you thought the cover looked cool and buy it specifically off that. You can go to Blockbuster and rent the thing. That was a huge deal for gaming, and they didn't have one person on that documentary to talk about how much of an impact Blockbuster was to gaming and getting people into games and getting more games out there and getting people to try games that were different, you know. And it's that really annoyed me. Anytime I saw video games in the background or something like that when they were walking around the store, I'm like, why isn't anybody talking about this? It bugs me, and that's a shame that they like if this is going to be the Blockbuster documentary. That was never an aspect in it. Very annoying. But whatever. If you want like a
It's
blast
just
from.
cool to see the inside of a
Oh
blockbuster.
yeah, seeing them walk around it and like seeing new movies in a blockbuster was very strange and
Yeah.
very. If you want to check out, I recommend probably the first like 45 minutes of it where they go over most of the information in the first half of the
Hmm.
documentary, which is strange to not kind of. It was to pace it out a little bit better, but whatever. It is what it is. It wasn't terrible, but it's kind of strange. Anyways, yeah, that's what I got. I went on for a long
Good
time.
times.
Good times. Anywho, I guess we have a topic for this week. There's not really a movie that we both saw that we're going to review or anything like that. Mortal Kombat's coming up in a couple weeks, but there was something I felt I wanted to talk about, something very interesting. I feel like this past week has been a very bad press week for Sony, where there's just a lot of news items dropping that are kind of in the Sony ballpark that each thing alone would be like, that's kind of weird, but no, you just kind of would have rolled over you. But all of these combined, I feel like made a really kind of bad press week for Sony, where you're just like, had a lot of people like kind of coming down off of a Sony high, where a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, PlayStation can do no wrong, they're amazing. And now it's like there's all this, they kind of brought them down to earth. I feel like there was kind of been the sentiment on the internet being like, oh yeah, they're a business, and businesses sometimes make weird decisions.
Yeah. I agree. I guess my thought on what you just said, not that I disagree with you, but I think it speaks to just a larger subject in general about how news breaks on the internet nowadays that just really bothers me. I think it's not directly the same thing, but it's a branch of cancel culture, which
Mm-hmm.
I think is one of the most toxic thing that this earth has ever seen. Um, and I think the internet, apart from the cancel stuff, which I think is just terrible,
Mm-hmm.
but there's also this like piling on, and I think it's also a toxic part of what the internet has evolved into that is just not a good thing in my opinion. It just companies like um gosh, the guys from, was it Sweden or whatever, that made Cyberpunk, companies like that, they make mistakes, and
Mm-hmm.
stuff is going to happen, and it's just part of making video games, it's part of making movies, it's part of being a company, it's whatever. And I think very little information is collected a lot of times when a story is broken. A sometimes a gut reaction leads a story, and I think it's kind of sickening. I think there's a lot of just negative things that are going on in the world that there's not enough correct information being gained before these stories are written. So I know that doesn't exactly relate to this, but I do think that it is kind of part of that. Okay, somebody said something negative, so there's like, it's like there's not enough subjects to be written about right now. Maybe it's a boredom thing because of all the quarantine that's going on, and maybe there's so many websites now breaking news, so there's like so many news, and I think it kind of gets spread thin over a lot of sources. So I don't know. I don't want to be one to criticize any company as much as I love Xbox. I certainly don't want to be an anti PlayStation person. I think that's disgusting. I hate it when people do that. Um, I think any company that's proven themselves to be, have a place in this world should be forgiven. you
Yeah.
know, Up until a point, obviously, whatever point that is, sometimes can be a personal choice. But yeah, I hate it when companies get piled on like this. It's like, yeah, sure, the company may be making decisions that you don't agree with. Let it play out, people. Like, just because a story comes out doesn't mean you need to get on Twitter and start voicing your opinion about how Sony's so misguided and everybody should switch over to a Nintendo console or an Xbox console. There, and that may not be happening, but I have seen it play out before in that way, and I could see this being one of those things that leads into that. And it if if I was a bigger fanboy of Xbox, I would say, look at how far Xbox fell, and look at how much more goodwill that they've gained over the years. And but I'm not. I'm not a big fanboy of any of these companies. I just like to follow them. I like to comment. I happen to enjoy the controller better on an Xbox. The only reason I'm there. So I don't want to be negative on PlayStation. And I hate seeing this, basically, is what I'm trying to say. It's just let the company work themselves out. If they start making seriously bad decisions, and that's a time we can start talking. But you know, if not making a sequel to a game is a choice that it works better for them, we don't know that that's the wrong decision. You know, it takes some time. This was a long-winded way of saying, like, just more people need to cut more companies' breaks when negative things come out. And the cyberpunk thing has had me bothered now for a long time, and I think that's a great video game, and I hate that it's been piled on, and I would hate to see Sony market share suffer because because a few people decided to write stories that put them in a negative light. Sorry I talked for so long.
No, you're fine. This is your podcast.
Sometimes it's hard for me to understand how to organize my thoughts. So
yeah, I mean, okay, so we'll break it down, see what's going on, and we can kind of like judge if it's a big deal, if it's a good thing, or if it's not a thing at all. Okay, so it kind of broke, I think, first with Jason Schreier, a games journalist, writing for Bloomberg. Kind of wrote an article kind of detailing a lot of things and brought a few things to light that was previously unknown, and these are things that are not rumors. These are things that are true, that have happened, that I think started the whole thing. And you know, it's a good article. I think he's, you know, did some good reporting here. And he doesn't make a lot of judgment himself in the article. He's mainly doing the reporting, and a lot of the people were kind of making the judgments after the fact as for what this means for PlayStation as a company. A lot of it basically boils down to a couple big details. Is that he does mention that the Japan studios has shut down. They're one of Sony's biggest smaller studios who are well known for making smaller games, like say Gravity Rush was like one of their biggest ones, even though it's a pretty relatively small game.
Mm-hmm.
But that went along with kind of the narrative being kind of like shoving down the little guy to prop up the bigger games. That's the narrative. We don't know yet if that's true, but that's kind of the narrative that people were like going, uh-oh, about seeing this story kind of play out. So basically, The Last of Us the original Last of Us is getting a remake, and a smaller studio was handling it, and they said they were working on it originally, and they said, no, you're not going to work on it anymore. We're handing it back over to Naughty Dog. That's the big thing that I think sparked a lot of things, because big eyebrow raised over The Last of Us thing, which, yeah, it's weird, but we can get into that in a little bit. And another thing being the Days Gone 2 thing. So all Days Gone, it has its fans. Critically, it's a mixed game. A lot of people like it a lot. A lot of people are a little either ambivalent on it or just flat out don't like it. I'm a little bit on the ambivalent side. I've played a few hours of it. I couldn't really get into it too much. It's a game that's very often given away by Sony. It's kind of strange, actually, because it's part of the PlayStation Plus collection on PlayStation 5. And also they made it one of the PlayStation Plus games this month. And so very strange. It looks like a good game. I'm sure it is actually a good game. Just from the little I played of it, I'm like, this is solid. It's polished. It just didn't draw me in. But either way, it did pretty good. Sales did well. It went above expectations. But Sony declined, Sony Ben Studios to make a sequel. They basically pitched a sequel, and Sony said no. It's hard to say what that means. A lot of people are kind of like this or thatting this whole situation, meaning like, because they're in the same story, saying like, oh, you declined Days Gone 2 to make a Last of Us reboot, and that's obviously not how things go. It's two separate things that are being done, which you know, I don't think the Days Gone 2 thing is honestly, I just don't think it's as big. I don't personally know anyone, maybe actually Adam. I think Adam has played Days Gone, and and likes it.
Mm-hmm.
I think from what we can have him on the show. We can talk about it. But I forgot. I don't know if he like loved the game, but it has a small fan base, and it looks like a very expensive game to make. It looks like a very big
Yeah.
budget game. So honestly, I would consider a Days Gone 2 sequel to be up in the air, kind of as is. I don't know, but that's the one news. But it kind of set everyone ablaze. Mostly people talking about the Last of Us remake. I can see some of the weirdness for that. It's kind of strange being upset about a game being made, I guess. A lot of people
Yeah.
I
Agree.
feel like grind at when remakes happen regardless. We get this a lot in movies and TV whenever there's a reboot of a beloved thing or a remake of a beloved thing. A lot of people either say don't do this or why are you doing this? I feel like it's almost the same kind of sentiment, especially when it's a studio like Naughty Dog. That's whenever they're making something, it's not like they have Naughty Dog 2 over there, Naughty Dog India, who are over there making something else. They're making it. They're the ones making it. And if they're making something, they're occupied with it. Correct me if
Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong on this, of course. But yeah, for them to kind of spend time on this, I can understand it being disappointing and being like, wow, one of the best studios out there, and we're getting an updated version of, for this third time, technically, of The Last of Us, which most people argue, and I think most people are right, that it doesn't need a reboot. So I get
So
that aspect of it a little bit.
I'm a little unclear. So when they say a reboot, like, are
I'm
they talking
sorry.
new characters?
I misspoke. Not reboot, remake. Just
So
basically
remake, we're just talking like upgraded visuals. Is that what they mean by?
from what I can gather, I'm thinking of it looks like a
Because
next
there was a remake from PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4, right?
Yeah,
And
that
that's what we're talking about happening again.
the PlayStation 3 to PlayStation 4 was a remaster. The word remake is being thrown around, which makes me think along the lines of the maybe Crash Bandicoot Insane trilogy, how they like took the game, it's the same game, but remade it from the ground up, same way they did Shadow of the Colossus, maybe. You know, I mean, looking at The Last of Us, going to The Last of Us 2.
Not really something we need, basically.
Yeah. It looks a lot better. Like Last of Us 2 looks amazing. It's incredible. It's one of the best looking games out there. And Last of Us still looks good. Like I played it leading up to Last of Us 2 not that long ago, and I was still like, this looks good. This looks good enough. Looks great. I do not play this game thinking, man, I wish they remade it, or oh boy, that doesn't hold up very well. Definitely not thinking any of those things. It's still a great looking game.
Yeah, I mean, I think my irritation with this would be more at Jason Schreier for kind of writing this, because I don't know. This, to me, this is a piece that talks about things that are very inside baseball, inside Sony, and something that probably will never see the light of day, and so it puts Sony in a bad light. Whereas, let them figure that out. Yes, I agree. I think we both agree with the fact that we don't need that game, but if they want to try to make that, do some internal testing, work on that, that's up to them, man. Like, their money is their business, and I'm not going to come inside someone's house and tell them how to decorate their kitchen. And the fact of the matter is, what Sony's doing, outside, what they're actually bringing to market are great games. So I think it's a little unfair to like hear, sources inside tell you things about teams and what they're working on, and then judge on those sources. You don't fully know how much is actually exactly right, how much the person that's giving you the information is putting their own spin on it. I don't know. It feels a little unfair to Sony the way this was written. I've read most of this article while you were talking.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where I'm at.
I understand that. And also there's an aspect of it where Nintendo is very much the most under wraps out of all these companies. They can hold a surprise. Things get leaked really last minute. I could only imagine a lot of how the fans would cry and the gnashing of teeth that would happen, knowing all the things that Nintendo said no to, um,
Yeah.
and the things that they said yes to, and like I can only imagine. And like we've gotten a lot of this recently with the whole Mario 35th anniversary kerfuffle, where it's like a weird business decision and fans are upset about it. This is definitely just a thing that happens, and yeah, this whole inside baseball thing tends to piss
But
people off a lot
that's
more.
something that came to market. That's what Sony decided to do. Nintendo has decided repeatedly to come out with games that they've had out for a long time. They've decided to re-release that kind of thing. I am irritated at Nintendo. I think that is appropriate to say,
Yeah.
this is just isn't right to your fans. Like, make a digital store, let them buy it, and then have that digital store carry on. We talked about this before. Let that digital store carry on throughout consoles so that that person can enjoy that game on whatever console they buy from you. They'll have already bought the console. You know, those people, if they're fans enough to have bought those older games, are going to buy your newer games. They're going to buy your new consoles. You're going to get money out of them, but do the minimum fan service of allowing those people to use the games that they already own. And to me, this isn't that.
Yeah, I mean, do you think like I mean, it's a very much a different situation where that's like Nintendo's doing a very anti-consumerist
It says in
thing.
the article, Sony never fully acknowledged the team's existence or gave them the funding and support needed to succeed in the highly competitive video game market, according to people involved. That sentence right there, to me, sums up the whole article and why I don't think it's fair. So Jason is saying Sony never fully acknowledged the team's existence. So that means this is completely based off his sources, and he says so at the end, according to people involved. But then Jason adds in, gave them the funding and support needed to succeed in the highly competitive video game market. Now that's Jason interjecting his opinion into that, which puts Sony in a negative light. That's the reason I don't like this article.
It's true. He
All those things may be true that he's saying, and those things may be negatives, but he's basing it on what somebody has told him. And it may be true, but like I said, I'm sure Xbox does a lot of things. I wouldn't even want to know what's been going on inside of the Halo development team, because I guarantee you there's a lot of negative things going on. There's no reason that they have all had all these years to develop Halo Infinite, and they come out with a trailer that looks like a small team put that together. It really does, even though this is a hugely funded project that has been hotly anticipated for more than 5 years now. And it's the same thing with what any of the teams down in San Diego work for Sony, like that, whatever they're going to work for. And obviously, you know, them teaming up with Naughty Dog, all that stuff's going to be hotly anticipated, well funded. So, you know, if Sony wants to work on The Last of Us, you know, it probably is not a good idea. Of course, everyone's going to agree with you on that. But,
might get canceled,
you know, cut them some slack. It's just, exactly, it might be canceled. It's just cut them some slack. I'm frustrated. I don't like this.
Well, I think, honestly, to add perspective as to, in my opinion, why they might think it's a good idea at the time. Synergistically, they're trying to do a big media blitz. They're not just wanting to make video games, they're wanting to make movies and TV shows. Yeah. And we have The Last of Us.
Which honestly, it's like, how did you not realize that you could have done this before now? You own one of the largest movie studios in the world.
And so here comes
one of the most popular consoles in the world.
Yeah.
Duh.
And so here comes The Last of Us TV show coming to HBO at some point, and it's going to be telling the story of the original Last of Us game. And so this is a synergistic move, I think, to kind of tie it all in a big media blitz. And so this isn't the first time they've done this. The only difference is it wasn't like in such close conjunction with the original game, and that's Ratchet and Clank. So with Ratchet and Clank, that was their first attempt to do this. They made a Ratchet and Clank movie, which was based off the first Ratchet and Clank game for PlayStation 2, and at the same time made a remake of the original Ratchet and Clank game that I praised last week and most people love. Obviously, a big difference being like the generational leap. Well, it's actually the same, going from 2 to 4, but obviously much bigger difference when it comes to the original Ratchet and Clank going to what they did on the PlayStation 4. That game looks like the Pixar movie. But yeah, it's nothing new, really. When you look at it that way, it's kind of just an example of something we've already seen before. Maybe to just a smaller game and a smaller license, being Ratchet and Clank compared to The Last of Us, which is one of the most celebrated games of, the last couple generations, I would say, as being The Last of Us.
As you were saying that, I was kind of playing devil's advocate on my own opinion for a second, and I thought, okay, Luke, you've made your point clear here. So what is the other side? What if somebody else was to come in and argue this? Devil's advocate. Obviously, I just explained what I said. That's stupid. But my point being, okay, let's say Sony does do this. Let's say they change course. They funded this team. They did it right. They did this Last of Us remake. They made it amazing. They have the TV show come out. Maybe right before the TV show comes out, this remake's announced. Then they come out and say something like it's $10 or it's free for all Sony PlayStation owners. Then it's a different story.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's not all negative. I mean, they come out and this is a $70 game. That's outrageous. But I don't think they would do that. It might be a $40 game, which I wouldn't be a big fan of that. But if they came out and said this is a cheap upgrade for the game you already own, or if you own The Last of Us Part 2, I don't know, something like that, and this is a quick upgrade, or it's just straight up free for all PlayStation or PSN users, that's a different story. That's saying, okay, Sony's doing a lot of good fan service things here. So, I guess I'm speaking to myself a little bit more than I am you here, where it's like, there are sides of this to where it does work out. I still don't like Jason Schreier's, I feel like he's standing there kind of like shooting spitballs at Sony, and I don't feel like that's fair. But if you're judging Sony on this, there are sides of this where it's like, okay, this could be interesting. Can you imagine? I mean, if they came out with a free, 4K, 120 frames, beautiful HDR version of The Last of Us, you think it looks beautiful on PlayStation 4 remaster. Dang, man. I mean, that would be pretty cool. That would be something that would get a lot of people's opinion. It would sell a lot of PlayStation 5s. That could be pretty cool.
Video games are the video game media, I would say, is a very fickle thing. You get a story like this and people are like, oh my gosh, Sony, what are you doing? If a couple weeks go by and Returnal comes out and it's great, and people are going to say, oh my gosh, Sony, you are so amazing. Look at this, taking a chance in this weird game. I love that they're making games like this. And the same thing would be true if they drop a trailer and it's like, hi, Joel, my name's Ellie. And it looks incredible and it's at an affordable price and it's amazing. And then there's a bunch of other good news piled up next to it. People will forget that this article ever happened. That's just how it is. People are like this with Nintendo all the time. There'll be something really stupid that they do or something that people don't like, and then there'll be something amazing, and oh my god, I just love Nintendo so much. Isn't Nintendo amazing?
Yep.
And the truth of the matter
is, that's the internet for you.
That's the internet. That's exactly what I'm saying. And when I say, this is a bad week, a press week for somebody, that's what I'm talking about. I don't mean in actuality. I mean press week, where it's like, these are people spitballing and people not liking this news, and it will blow away like sand on the wind. The instant they say, hey, this is free on PlayStation Plus, you didn't understand, oh my gosh. And then, holy crap, they're so generous. All that stuff. The same thing is true with every platform. With Xbox, oh my gosh, I can't believe Halo Infinite trailer looks so bad. Holy crap, they bought Bethesda. Game Pass is amazing. It flips on a dime from one bad decision to one good decision. That's just kind of where we're at. And yeah, I think there's definitely a possible reality where oh my gosh, The Last of Us show is incredible. We're loving it. This game's out and it looks amazing and it's a great deal. And they're also announced another, like new IP for that Naughty Dog's working on too. And I'm excited for that. Yeah, there is definitely a good chain of events that are possible out of this news that a lot of people are painting as broadly negative. For sure.
Yep.
And
I think we've beaten this dead horse enough.
I think so. There were a couple things here and there, which, in my opinion, none of these things are negative, but they've kind of like been placed upon the pylon onto Sony, which is the whole MLB The Show thing. I think this is hilarious, actually, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not a baseball.
Definitely a strange situation.
It's so funny. I love this kind of stuff. I love the idea that people are going to be popping this game into their Xbox or downloading it from Game Pass.
Yep.
And the first things that are going to pop up are Sony Studios. I think that's, or PlayStation Studios. I think that's hilarious. I think it's so fun when I play Minecraft on the Nintendo Switch and I have to sign in to my Xbox Live account. I think it's hilarious and it's great.
Yeah.
There is no downside to this really for anyone. Let's be real. This game was never going to be free on PlayStation. It just happens that Game Pass, they just keep sweetening the deal, and this was going to be an Xbox.
It's not free. It's a paid service.
You pay. It's a deal that you subscribe to, and it's just great. This is
it's a great deal.
Yeah, Xbox got with MLB, and they made this happen. They made this deal happen.
MLB just basically demanded Sony, like, look,
yeah,
you're not supporting us enough, so
it's a huge game.
We'll spread this thing out.
Can you imagine if Madden was an Xbox only game? It's like this is the biggest baseball franchise, and
it's always been a weird thing. But weird. Because PlayStation Studios develops it, it's like, okay,
yeah,
what's fair in love and war kind of thing.
It's just, I love this weird crossover stuff, and it's happening because what people are saying, this is the narrative where it's like, oh, how embarrassing for Sony that their game is free on another platform that is not them, and they're not releasing it for like PlayStation Plus for free. It's like they don't have the same like an equivalent subscription service. They just don't. They have other stuff that I think is really cool that I think have their own merits, but that was never going to be a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's strange. But anyways, people view this as negative. And I actually think this next one is a little bit like a feather taken from Sony's cap, placed upon Xboxes. And I will give a caveat, if true. The rumor is that
always that caveat's there.
If true, all this other stuff, it's happening. It's real. It is what it is. This one is a rumor still. It's not confirmed by anything, but the rumors are strong enough to at least talk about, whereas other stuff I don't even really give attention to yet until it becomes a little bit more concrete. That the next Hideo Kojima game will be exclusive to Xbox. That's the rumor. And there are further rumors, which establishes the reasons. Obviously, this could be whatever, basically saying that Sony basically said no to something that Kojima wanted to make, leading him to turn to Microsoft to give him the freedom.
Isn't that kind of the story of Kojima?
Kind of is.
People turning him down because he wants to do too much.
And honestly, it's one of those things where
his vision a lot of times, I think, outreaches his reach.
Yeah. Death Stranding did okay on the platform as far as sales go, did okay. And it very mixed critical reception. I myself, I'm mixed on the game. I actually look back fondly upon the game, but my experience playing it was sometimes less than positive. But I look back on the game fondly because I like the world, I like the story, I like the feel of it. But actually playing the game was not, at most of the times, in my opinion, not great. But yeah. And that was
some people just are obsessed though with it.
Oh yeah, and I get it. I get it. No, it's It's an interesting world. And man, it had to be super expensive. Looking at that game, holy freaking crap. It's beautiful. It's big. It's got all these stars in it. Holy crap. That couldn't have been cheap.
Yeah.
I don't know what Kojima wants to do next. And I have no idea.
Always bigger and badder.
Bigger and badder. I heard a bunch of people saying they should port that game to PS5 and add like haptic controls to make the controls even more difficult. To make like you trying to balance your inventory like on the shoulder pads.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. But again, for the Kojima fans and people who just love everything he does, famously he works primarily with Sony. Yeah, I mean, Metal Gear Solid is also on Xbox, but when there is an exclusive, it's usually with Sony, be it, the supposed PT game was going to be a Sony game. The obviously Death Stranding.
I mean, honestly, it's probably because Sony's a Japanese company, and
that too.
There's probably some loyalty to his own country made. So I would assume that's why he kind of defaulted to that.
Yeah.
Which is understandable. I mean, I would want to work with an American company, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I can see that.
And I think Microsoft has a big desire to reach out to Eastern markets more. I think they have a big desire to do that, and they're right to do so. I think that they're really trying to get a lot of these bigger things from like Japanese studios, like Scarlet Nexus is a big one that they are like really pushing. That was more of a Japanese game. It's not exclusive, but they're the ones they have the marketing rights for it. And I think like games like that, they'd love to kind of reach out to that market more. And okay, we're running a little. I don't want to open a new can of worms, but it's too related not to. The rumors are floating around once again of Sony talking to Nintendo and them trying to work on something to bring Game Pass to the Nintendo Switch is a rumor. And that kind of coincides with that, doesn't it? Right?
Only a matter of time, man.
Yeah, to say, hey,
Game Pass will be on PlayStation, mark my words.
And you know what? That would do exactly what I think it's in like the interest of everyone to do that. I think it sounds like a great thing. I mean, I think that makes maybe the Switch more viable in people's eyes, like maybe even you, to be like, oh man, that would be a really cool, great way to play Game Pass games on the go. Whereas sometimes playing on a mobile phone maybe isn't great.
I would still miss my Xbox controller, but yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, and this would all
if you could hook up the controller to it and use it as a screen, that could be enticing too.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, you can do that with all the Apple products. You can use PlayStation and Xbox controllers on the Apple TV to play video games. And you can even play them on your phone, which I've done, which is weird, but it's cool.
That would really accomplish what I think Microsoft wants. Well, one is to spreading Game Pass as many things as possible, but also broadening their appeal and introducing Japanese markets to their brand.
Yeah.
The Switch is ridiculous in Japan. Ridiculous. And for them to put, and that's where Xbox sells the least, is in Japan. They're just not as big there. And for them to put that on Nintendo Switch or even Sony PlayStation, that would open up their brand to many new eyes.
Isn't Japan a largely PC market though? Is that true?
Large. I mean, or
is that more China?
They're a big PC market, but I don't think like any more or less than I think we are. I think they're like kind of in the same category as far as like how it compares to consoles. Consoles and PC are big here. I think it's the same there as well, from what I understand. I don't know about China.
I was thinking of there was at least one of those countries I heard like really most people PC game.
Interesting.
That's just the way they game. But I don't know for sure. I'd be guessing.
Biggest Chinese game of all time, Genshin Impact. Definitely a PC game too.
Yeah.
I think that
probably what it was.
I could be talking out of my booty. I know it's a huge freaking game, but I don't know if that's the biggest Chinese game. which is just really, really freaking big.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that I don't know if any of that's true. I can't even. That's all rumors, obviously, and I don't know when or if or any of that stuff. But heck, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Right?
Oh yeah,
That'd be really cool.
I'm ready for it. More people should be able to play more games. Simple as that.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine, like, yeah, like all this stuff being more? I would be really.
What if Kojima goes to Xbox and his games on Game Pass? The Game Pass goes to PlayStation, and Game Pass goes to Nintendo. So now you can play Kojima games on all systems.
That'd
If
be
I was Kojima,
really funny.
I'd be fine with that because it's like,
yeah,
all I want is to make the vision that I want, and I want as many people to play it as I can get.
mm-hmm. That'd be
Why
really
would anybody
hilarious.
want anything
Love
else? The whole point of creating art is to have people play it, watch it, look at it, whatever, experience it.
Absolutely. I think that would be awesome. I think it'd be hilarious, and I'd be all for it. I can't wait to play Halo Infinite on my Nintendo Switch. That would ever be a thing. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
So crazy. Because, like, I imagine if the best case scenario, if they were to come to Switch, for instance, there'd be like kind of a thing where a lot of it would be via xCloud. So like if you were to, because all that stuff would take porting. If you're going to like take, for instance, like the Medium, and you'd have to make a port and port it to the Switch. And that would be very difficult. But if you do it via streaming, like via xCloud, you could just throw that application on there, basically.
Yeah.
But what would be cool is if the games that were already on Switch could be included and just be downloaded. Like, for instance, Skyrim and Doom. Like, all that stuff is on Switch. That'd be so cool if, like, Game Pass, all games that are on your system, you can download just like you would on your Xbox, but all games that aren't can be streamed via xCloud. That would be like the best case scenario. I don't know if they'll do that because I don't know if that takes away money. That the whole financial thing comes into question at that point, where it's like, who are you paying? What kind of deals are they making to do that? Are you paying Nintendo or are you paying Microsoft? And so a lot of questions come with that.
They'd have to figure out the revenue sharing for sure.
Exactly.
It's going to happen though.
Yeah. That's a giant step from just putting a Cuphead and Ori on the Nintendo Switch, but hey, that would be awesome. As
long as the Nintendo people agree with it, I think Microsoft is definitely down.
I think Nintendo has a lot to gain too. I mean, I think it just makes their system even more appealing, being like, if that's the definitive way to play like xCloud, to play mobile games, like here's the mobile system you already have, and you don't have to worry about getting a text from it or like juggling the battery life with your phone or whatever. This is just your mobile console, and then you can do with it. I mean, I guess there's internet to take into question, but I don't know. Fun to talk about. Anyways, I guess we'll figure out something else to talk about next week.
There's always something happening out there.
There's always something happening. I mean, I'm sure there was a bunch of other stuff that we haven't talked. There's a lot of things we forget to talk about. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Like, I realized we never talked about the Space Jam trailer. I mean, we're not gonna talk about it now, but it's like funny where I'm like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that, did we? Oh.
Yeah. You just gotta pick and choose. I mean, we can't cover it all.
We're not a daily show, are we?
No.
But anyways, it's been fun.
Yep, it definitely has.
Jordy, eat dinner?
I did. We had some Chick-fil-A.
All right. What'd you get?
Sandwich and some nugs.
Some sandwich and nuggies? All right.
Yeah.
Do you get cheese on your Chick-fil-A sandwich?
Yeah, the deluxe.
You get the deluxe. Oh.
Yeah.
So usually I just add the Colby Jack cheese. I just say and add Colby Jack cheese is usually what I do.
That is the cheaper way to do it.
Yeah.
That's the way.
So I don't know if I want
This is the way.
This is the way. Glad to hear it. My wife is downstairs making dinner as we could speak. I can feel or I could smell rather the scent wafting through the AC.
Feel in my soul it being made.
So Luke, I'll see you next week. We'll talk about something silly.
Go eat.
Thank you, man. See ya.
See ya.